America is the greatest country in the world. Thanks for being here. Politics by faith. The Maha movement. Make America healthy again. We have Vani Hari is going to be here, aka the Food Babe, and Jennifer Gillardi. Awesome, amazing guest. I want to start off here with my argument as to why Maha needs to remain a major part of MAGA. 1899, Teddy Roosevelt. He said, "I wish to preach not the doctrine of ignoble ease, but the doctrine of the strenuous life, the life of toil and effort, of labor and strife. To preach that highest form of success which comes not from the man who desires mere easy peace, but to the man who does not shirk from danger, from hardship, or from bitter toil, and who out of these wins the splendid ultimate triumph." This speech was given by Teddy Roosevelt in 1899. It's called his Strenuous Life Speech. And I believe the same principles here that Teddy Roosevelt talked about need to be a major part of MAGA. That is strength, vitality, vigor, effort, work ethic, health, self-control. You know, I've been thinking lately, I've realized, I suppose, that a lot of the issues that we've dealt with in these first, whatever long this administration's been here, a lot of the issues have been cleaning up a mess. You know when you open up the fridge and like the eggs fall on the ground? Do you put the eggs on the top shelf? We've always put the eggs on the top right. I don't know. I feel like that's normal, but maybe now that I think about that, I'm guessing we all put our eggs in different places. But for my whole life, the eggs have been on the top right shelf. And every once in a while, it'll fall to the ground. And then you spend all this time and you work hard cleaning up the eggs. And you're done, you get them all cleaned up, and you're still hungry. They didn't really do anything. I mean, you did, you cleaned it, but you didn't eat breakfast yet, right? And I feel like we've done a lot of that. Right? We haven't yet made the real gains in this country that we need to make. And like that's on us. Like we got to do that. We got to always be doing that. We, the American people, need to do better when it comes to virtue and work ethic and education and wisdom. There's a lot of things we can do that'll make our country better, but a lot of it's just kind of getting us back to square one. Like it's better to clean up the eggs off the floor than to leave them on the floor, of course, but we got to go more than that. And I think one of the tenets that will take us beyond is Maha. It's one of the most important things. It should be one of the most important parts of MAGA, that the American man and woman should be strong and fit and healthy. And by I say healthy, I mean as much as within your control, of course, right? Our founding fathers, our founding grandfathers, the pioneers, the pilgrims, they were all strong. Today we are weak. And back in the day, a man would do a full day's work by our standards, and those were just his morning chores. Eric Sloan is a wonderful writer. He's a wonderful painter, who's also a writer. I've been reading almost all of his books now. I read just the other day, he says, "It seems that Americans' most disastrous invention may be not the atomic bomb, but the easy chair." Thomas Jefferson said, "Cultivators of the earth are the most valuable citizens." The farmers. They're the most vigorous, the most independent, the most virtuous. And they are tied to their country and wedded to its liberty and interests by the most lasting bonds. Again, effort, work ethic, health. We also, this comes up in our show from time to time. We talk a lot on my SiriusXM show about work ethic and like the trades. We just did a segment today about Mike Rowe and the trades, right? And it kind of turns out there's like this like battle that has existed that is it's such nonsense. Like we need to stop with it, where it's like, oh, I'm a man of letters and I'm going to go in this direction. And then it's like, oh, I'm a welder and I'm just a big dummy. It's like, well, no, like guys, like both, all things. And I think of this, like when I think of the people and the attitude that built our country, people like John Adams, and you're thinking, oh, well, John Adams, he's like an extreme case, right? I don't know. This is when he was 20. So he wasn't John Adams yet. He was just a 20-year-old guy. And he wrote in his diary, it's February 18th, 1756, his diary for the day, he said, "Rose at sunrise, unhitched a load of hay, and translated 2 more leaves of Justinian." That would be the works of the Emperor Justinian of the Byzantine Roman Empire from like the year 500 or so. So here he is, getting up early, working hard, and then translating some Latin into English. Because, but that's it. That's who we were. This is what built our country. Strong and smart and wise and virtuous. All of these things. And I think that's what Maha is. As we'll talk to Vani in a little bit, the food babe, about getting food dyes out of our food. Like that's it, but that's part of health, right? There's a lot of different aspects of health. And I want to embrace all of them as conservatism and as MAGA. I'll make one more point here because I want to leave room for our wonderful guest. I came across this gem from Alexis Carrel. Alexis Carrel, he won the Nobel Prize for Medicine in 1912. And his point was that because of different technologies, we have been freed from the hard labor necessary to survive. Right? It used to take incredible, strenuous effort just to grow food and to be able to eat. And we've been freed from that. Most people, for the most part, right? We've been freed from the threat of famine, about how difficult it is to move, to like go from point A to point B through the forest and the mountains, right? We no longer dread long winter nights. We're fed, clothed, sheltered, right? All these things have become a lot easier for us, right? Life has become much easier physically. That's true, undeniable. But what else has happened? Here's what Alexis says. He says, we have abandoned the struggle against ourselves as eagerly as that against our environment. Okay, let's pause on that for 1 second. So we used to struggle against our environment to grow food and eat, right? And to get from point A to point B. And we don't anymore, okay? That's good. But we've also abandoned that struggle against ourselves, against our own impulses. We've also lost our self-control and our discipline. All right, go back. He says, without troubling to master ourselves, we have delivered ourselves up to every impulse. We have ceased to discipline ourselves. We have become emancipated. It means free, right? And he says, emancipated man, this is the key line. Emancipated man is by no means comparable to the eagle soaring in the immensity of the sky. So that's what we think. We think freedom, oh, it's amazing. I'm free. I can now soar like an eagle. And he says, no, that's not what emancipated man looks like. Emancipated man far more closely resembles a dog that has escaped from its kennel, running wildly about in all directions, uncertain of where he's going, searching for some new master. I love that idea. We can go into a bunch of different directions with that, but let me finish up the quote. He says, thus, the disappearance of external and internal discipline has not made us stronger or happier. On the contrary, it has deprived us of the very conditions necessary for the development of our faculties. The majority of men incapable of self-direction are lost in the midst of liberty. They're like a ship without a rudder, at the mercy of every wind. The discipline imposed by necessity has been replaced by the anarchy of instincts. Oh, it's so good. And we see that everywhere. Like in colleges today, it's all about feelings. And now that's beyond just colleges, right? But I feel this, I feel that, my feelings. And that's because we used to have discipline that ran the show, imposed by necessity because it was hard to survive. And now that's been replaced by the anarchy of instinct. And he says the result is a profound malaise, a sense of emptiness and disorientation, which is the mark of our age. And that was over 100 years ago. And this, to tie into Maha, mental health. This has led to depressions and anxiety, obesity, right? Gender dysphoria is tied into this as well. We're just not in a healthy place. We're not in a healthy place in our country when it comes to our food, our minds, our souls, if I may, our sexual impulses. There's an estimated 1.4 million women on OnlyFans as prostitutes, and there's 149 million accounts. That's half the country. That's just in America. What the heck? What is this? People are sick in our country. And these are the things that are in our control. There's a lot of external problems that are maybe not as much in our control, maybe not as much our fault, but this is on us. We've got to get back to what we know is right. I gotta take a break here, but I'll make one last point. We did a previous special where I made the argument that, not an argument, the reality that kids don't know how to throw a ball. And it's not that they don't know how to throw a ball, or they throw like a girl. They don't even know what a ball is. They don't even know what to do with it. They just like push it to the ground. Like there's no even attempt to throw it. It's like that's a big problem. All right. The ancients believed in sound mind, sound body. The shoe company Asics, that's anima sana and corpore sano. That's Latin for sound mind and sound body. But I'll give you another example of where we're just off. This is an article in The Atlantic. A classic childhood pastime is fading. What? Kids on bikes. In the 90s, 20 million kids were hopping on bikes. And now it's half that. And even like only 5% ride their bikes frequently. It's really important to ride your bike as a kid. You have the physical element of it, of course, that health, but also like the emotional, spiritual, mental part, like the shame if you don't make it up that hill and you got to walk your bike, right? It's like all these, the freedom that comes with it. Kids have never learned freedom and independence and don't know how to talk to people and how to look people in the eye. It's just a bad scene out there. If we want to save our country, it's a lot more than just policy even. It's part of it, right? But a lot of this stuff is just getting us back to square one. We have a lot of work to do ourselves if we actually want to move forward. And in order to move forward, we have to keep health and vigor as a priority in the MAGA movement. Welcome back to Politics by Faith, the Maha movement. No better person to talk to get an update how things are going and where we got to get going. Vani Hari is here. She is the food babe and founder of Vani, which is the only protein powder that our family uses. And our producer Matt has lost 50 pounds using Vani, among other Maha principles. Vani, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Great to talk to you again. Let's talk about some of the wins. What are you most excited about in these last few months so far?
Well, it's been absolutely extraordinary to watch almost half of the entire food industry announce that they're going to be removing artificial food dyes. This was one of the campaign promises that Secretary Kennedy had on the trail. He took voices like mine and others who have wanted to get artificial food dyes out of the American food supply for quite a while. I mean, I've been working on these issues for over 10 years. And, it was 15 years ago that American food manufacturers took out artificial food dyes for countries in Europe and decided to keep selling us the more poisonous, more toxic version here. And there was nobody holding these companies accountable. I was screaming from the rooftops. I was launching petitions and actions against these major corporations and was able to get some of them to change. But it was like playing a game of whack-a-mole, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And it wasn't until Secretary Kennedy's leadership and him listening to my testimony at the Senate roundtable back in September that he realized that this was something that the people want, and the voice of mothers and so many of us that are so frustrated at the American food supply, how it's inundated with chemicals that don't serve a nutritional purpose, that just improve the bottom line of the food industry and don't improve our health, and in some cases really harm our health. I mean, there's over 3 million children being medicated for hyperactivity. I can only think that some of those children are being medicated because of these dyes, because they cause hyperactivity in children. And this is the warning label that countries in Europe had, over 15 years ago to warn parents that this, is a product that could cause this. And instead of putting the warning label on their products, the American food companies decided to voluntarily remove the artificial food dyes and create better for you products using real food ingredients, natural dyes like paprika and beta carotene and beet juice. And so now Americans are going to get the same. Again, it's been over 50% of the food, around 50% of the food industry announcing this. The biggest ones that have happened to date are Kraft and Conagra, which I think about Duncan Hines and the snack pack pudding, McCormick, who makes all the food dye kits, Hershey's, General Mills, which is a huge cereal manufacturer, J.M. Smuckers, who makes Twinkies and other, processed food,
Food.
Nestle, Sam's Club, and then you have some of the fast food industry announcing as well, which is fantastic. So it goes beyond just the things that you buy in the grocery store, but it's going into fast food as well. Like In-N-Out just removed Red 40 from their strawberry milkshakes and their strawberry lemonade. So this is quite extraordinary. Then you have which is it's really funny. There's a couple of companies that are kind of holding out on announcing, and I think it has to do with the fact that they're going through a big M&A process right now. So Mars is actively acquiring Kellanova, which actually used to be part of Kellogg's. And they're in the middle of that. Usually during an M&A, from my banking experience, there's a dead period. You don't make any major changes. You don't go through change management. Everything's kind of put on halt until the merger's finished. That's probably what's happening there. Same with Kellogg's. Kellogg's just got a bid to buy them from Ferrero, an Italian private company. I actually called this happening back in November when I realized how we were affecting their bottom line, and the fact that cereal sales were declining, especially Fruit Loops and some of their main brands, because of the fact that they wouldn't listen to over 400,000 signatures on a petition, and how we went to Battle Creek, Michigan with those petitions and tried to deliver them and talk to that company, how they turned a back on American mothers. People started boycotting them, and it affected their bottom line. And I said, the only way they're going to survive is if a company takes them private and then re-engineers what they're doing and fixes all of their archaic systems that they rely on these artificial food dyes, and then they're going to bring the brand back so it can be viable in the next 100 years, because there's no way a company today can be viable with these artificial food dyes and these chemicals in the next 100 years, because the awareness is increasing dramatically because of the leadership in Washington. The FDA is going to start reviewing other chemicals too, and I'm really excited about this. This is titanium dioxide that's banned in Europe and causes DNA damage. BHT and BHA that are preservatives that are, some of them are used to line the packages of cereal and other products, processed meat. Then you have azodicarbonamide, a chemical that you find in yoga mats and shoe rubber that shouldn't be in our food system. This is the chemical that Subway removed out of their bread after I launched a petition and a campaign against them. And polyparaben, which is a paraben that you see, removed from a lot of cosmetic products, but it's still in our food. So this is something that they're going to be looking at the review and the scientific review to revoke the authorization of these chemicals. And that's very exciting. I think what's working so beautifully with the MAHA movement at the I'm sorry, what did you say? Did you say something?
No, I'm sorry. No, please keep going.
Okay. So one thing that's working beautifully with the leadership in Washington is the bottoms up grassroots movement from the states. We have extraordinary things happening in the states. We have West Virginia that just banned artificial food dyes in the entire state. So that's going to put enormous pressure on the food industry to start reformulating their products so that they can actually have market share in West Virginia. I don't see a single food company deciding, you know what, we're not going to serve our product in West Virginia. I don't see that happening. So I think that was a fantastic thing that happened, and it was huge kudos to Governor Morrissey that made that happen. Then you have Texas that just passed a bill, 40 different chemicals that are going to be required a warning label that warns people that these chemicals are not being used in other countries that could pose harm to their health. That is the biggest processed food bill of its kind, and it was passed. And it's really extraordinary. I think the food industry is going to try to fight it, but I think it puts enormous pressure on the food industry again to stop poisoning us with ingredients they don't use in other countries. The list of 40 chemicals that are, or it's actually over 40 chemicals on the Texas bill, are chemicals typically not used in other countries in the exact same product that companies are using here in America. Things like Doritos and Cheetos and Mountain Dew and Gatorade. We should be getting the same safer products that these American food companies are making for other countries. How are we going to make America healthy again when we can't get the same products these American food companies are making? And this is again, something I've been fighting for a really long time. So it's exciting to see this happening at the state level, and it's providing enormous pressure. The other things
I'm
that are
sorry,
very exciting. Sorry, go ahead.
no, please keep going. I want the up, keep it going. What else do we need to know?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's been extraordinary partnership between the different interagencies. First of all, we had the amazing report, the Maha Commission report, come out that laid out the issues of what's making us so unhealthy. And, just about every member of the cabinet was there and commenting on the importance of this information and how we need to get it to the American people so they can make better informed decisions. That alone will help change the trajectory of this country. One of the things that is a complete I'm appalled at is the last dietary guidelines that came out actually never mentioned ultra processed foods. Thankfully, ultra processed foods was mentioned over and over and over again in this report. Then you have partnership between Secretary Rowlands at the Department of Agriculture and Secretary Kennedy coming together on the SNAP reform and getting junk food and soda out of SNAP, which is not only saving taxpayer money, but also going to save Americans because SNAP dollars are now going to be going to more fruits and vegetables and other things. You have enormous, again, bottom up pressure on the SNAP bills as well from so many different states: Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Texas, all doing SNAP waivers, which is really exciting. Utah as well. Then I think this is another one that is really important to moms is infant formula. Thankfully, I was able to breastfeed. I breastfed. I'm still breastfeeding. I've been breastfeeding for over 8 years, thankfully. But if I hadn't had that opportunity, or if I was in a situation where I needed to use formula, I would have had to order my formula from Europe to have the best formula for my child. That's unacceptable. And that's something that the FDA is going to be looking at, reviewing the dietary and scientific guidelines around formula and updating those so that American infant formula companies can start serving better, safer infant formulas in this country. That's really exciting. And I think one of the biggest fundamental changes that Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Marty McCary has announced is actually closing this GRAS loophole. It's the generally regarded as safe loophole that allows food companies to approve chemicals themselves and not look for third-party oversight or other third-party safety data to prove that these chemicals are safe for the food supply. This is one of the reasons why we have over 10,000 chemicals here in the United States and we have only 400 in other countries approved for use. So this is something that needs to close. We need to tightly regulate what chemicals are introduced into the food system, and we need to go back to nature, real, whole, unprocessed food.
Okay, so many amazing things there. I hate we got to run, but it sounds like you're excited. Do you think, and we got about a minute, but do you think the next 6 months or the next year, we can keep the pedal to the metal, keep this momentum going, and continue to do big things?
Yeah, I mean, the Maha movement is unstoppable. It's bipartisan. There are people coming together on these issues. It's something that can't be argued. Nobody can argue the fact that American companies should serve more poisonous chemicals to us here in the United States. When they see the side-by-side diagrams of all of the popular products and how they're safer in other countries, nobody can argue that. And that's what's very fundamental here. And if we can just solve that issue in the next 3.5 years, that is more progress than any other administration on the food system.
Yes. And Vani, you're such an integral part to this whole thing where we are right now. Super grateful for you. Food Babe, everyone go buy Trevani, the protein I've been using for like 20 years of my life. I realized because of you, I had an ingredient list this long. And then now we use Trevani that has 4 or 5 real actual things. Where can people follow you and stay up to date on the latest, Vani?
Yeah, you can follow me on all social platforms at The Food Babe. And you can come to foodbabe.com, join our email list, and so you get all the updates and stay up to date on all the things happening in the food industry.
Vani, keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.